Welcome back to the Modern Ham, where we are connected in new old ways. Today we're going to be talking about the Talkpod A36Plus. Has it changed in the past 6 months? Is it a buy or is it a pass? Stay tuned to find out more and find out if. Let me preface this video by saying I've been doing this YouTube channel for about 5 years now. And so I'm not going to compromise the integrity of my channel in order to get more cheap Chinese $45, $35, $20 radios. Although not all cheap radios are bad, I am always going to give my honest opinion. With that said, Talkpod did reach out to me. They did send me this radio for free, but that's not going to change what my language is going to be used in this video or what I'm going to talk about with my experiences. You guys are going to get an honest review, as you do always. So I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying, in the future and with these videos, I always use the products that I talk about. I took this radio with me everywhere I went for about a week, maybe a week and a half, and I used it as my only 2-meter rig. And that was to make sure that I got a good impression of how this radio works in the real world. I took it with me on drives, I programmed repeaters, so that way I could give you guys an honest representation of how this radio works. With that said, I'm going to start out with the good things that I found about the radio, and then we're going to go into the bad, and then we're going to talk about if this radio is for you or not. Let me go ahead and also get this out of the way, the legality of this radio. So I know a lot of content creators online, maybe unknowingly, or just people in general, kind of spread false information when it comes to regulations about especially the Chinese radios. That's why I always go back to the FCC regulations and quote from there and look from there, and that's where I get information, and that's where I think everybody else should too. With that said, this radio that I was sent personally is not legal to use on GMRS, although the Amazon listing advertises it as is. Now, I did not buy this radio from the Amazon listing. It was sent to me by Talkpod, so it could be a possibility that this radio firmware is different. I'm going to explain why it's not legal on GMRS. So the only reason that this radio is not legal on GMRS is because I was able to unlock the radio to allow it to use the amateur radio frequencies from the radio itself without the aid of a computer to program it. That is a regulation about GMRS radios to be Type 95 Echo certified. They cannot be unlocked to be used outside of those frequencies or with higher power or whatever it be from the front panel of the radio or the radio itself. And I was able to do that. So now I unlock this radio, and this isn't a radio unlocking guide. You can find plenty of those online. I unlock this radio. If it's unlockable from the radio itself, then technically it is not Type 95 Echo certified anymore, and you cannot use it on the GMRS bands. Even if I were to revert this back and put it back locked, it is now no longer certified. It would have to go through lab testing again for that certification. And so this radio will never be GMRS and ham radio compliant, just because in essence that's not possible here. Once it goes to amateur radio, it has to be certified to go back to 95 Echo. I'm not bashing anybody if they get this radio and they use it on GMRS. I'm not telling you that the police is going to come to your door and knock on it and tell you that you got to go to jail. Like, I'm not going to be a sad ham. I am going to inform you though of the regulations, and I'm not going to be the guy to muddy it. There it is, a straight answer. Let's go ahead and get into what I actually think about the radio. I'm going to start out with the good things about the radio. It is a much slimmer build than other radios in its price range. A lot of what I'm going to be comparing is going to be the Quansheng. It is a blocky radio. If you're into slimmer radios and more lightweight radios, which sometimes I prefer, sometimes I don't, then this definitely has a slimmer build. On top of that, the build quality of this volume knob, I'm not sure what they changed here over other radios, but something about it feels really durable. I feel like I can really push on this volume knob. I can really kind of beat it up, and it doesn't feel wobbly, which is kind of weird because other radios like my FT60 here, the volume or the knobs here feel like I have to protect them. I feel like I need something around them to make sure that nothing's pushing on them. So in a way, that's kind of a nice little piece there, a nice little, I don't know, engineering. Also, I want to talk about what comes in the box, obviously, because there is a neat little addition compared to some other radios. It comes with the programming cable, which is really cool too. And unlike your Baofengs, where you typically have to spend $15 or $20 extra for a programming cable after your purchase, this comes with it in the box, so you don't have to worry about purchasing another cable. Another thing is it comes with a USB-C cable, which is good. I'll have one issue with, I'll talk about in the bad parts, but it comes with a USB-C cable and the charger block because it does have USB-C charging in the battery. It also comes with the that little wrist strap. To me, this is garbage. I'm never going to use it. And it also comes with this Amazon ruler, garbage. Probably never going to use it. But as I was saying, it comes with a USB-C plug on the bottom of the radio. USB-C is the future. That's what we're moving towards. So the fact that radios are starting to now include it is a good thing. The fact that this is on the battery, the USB-C means I can remove the battery, I can plug it up to charge without the radio, and if the charger or the port ever goes bad, all I need is a new battery and I'm ready to rock and roll again. One other cool thing about that is everything that I seem to plug it into that had a 5-volt source seem to charge the radio, which means if you need a cell phone, if you have a cell phone block or you have a charger block in your car, you should be able to really just plug this in and it will charge as long as I think it is delivering 1 amp of electricity. I don't think it's going to charge faster than the Cradle, but I haven't tested that. But that's definitely a nice addition, which also has one drawback we'll talk about in a minute. Going on, I like the antenna, the rubber duck that they included. Typically, your rubber duck antennas are not very mobile. They're very rigid. If they hit something, it kind of pushes on the port before it pushes on the antenna. So something about this antenna, the ability for it to bend like this, I kind of like in a rubber duck. Maybe that's a weird thing for me. I'm not sure. Overall, for the price of $44, it seems like a decent little, I wouldn't call it super rugged, but I feel like it can take a few hits. It does advertise itself. I don't know if it's IP67. I'll have to throw it on the screen. But basically, it's not waterproof. But if you were to spray it with water or dust at all angles, it's supposed to be okay with that. It does have these little covers to protect the ports from things like that. So if you need to take it out in the rain, it should be all right. Programming on this radio was actually really intuitive. I was able to get on the road. I Googled some repeaters while my wife was driving, and I didn't even look up the instructions. I kind of just started programming the radio, and things pretty much work. Going on to the bad things about this radio, or the things that I necessarily did not like. One, USB-C port's great, but it's on the very bottom of the battery of the radio. That means if you want to plug it in USB-C, you're not going to be able to prop the radio upright. It also means that if you throw this in the car like I did, if you put it into a cup holder or you put it in any section of your car and you're sitting it down, you want to make sure that the area is pretty clean, because any liquids or any other nasty goop you might have is going to get in contact with inside that USB-C port and potentially damage your port. If you keep your things clean, typically like I do, that shouldn't be a problem. But be aware, maybe if you set your McDonald's cup in your cup holder in your car and it condensates water and then you put your radio in there, you might mess up your USB port. So one thing, I'll ding them on, really good idea. I would just like to see it maybe on the side of the radio. Other thing I'd like to talk about is the backlight. This radio, it has a power saving function, and the screen is actually pretty bright. I mean, it's a nice little display, and I don't know if I'm just not using this right, but with the power saving function that powers off the screen, it actually just blackens the screen. It actually turns everything off, so you're not able to tell if the radio is even on. Maybe that's just a rookie or noob mistake that I'm making, but I do know with these radios, I know the display's not great. If I'm using it, it's going to light up. And if I'm not using it, I can still see the liquid crystal display. I can still see the frequency, see what the radio's on. In the case of this radio, it seems like if the screen is not bright and it's not on, it's completely just gone. It looks like the radio's off. So I found myself a lot of times reaching for the radio and hitting buttons to wake it up to see if it's even on, or playing with the volume knob to see if I have it on, which is a little annoying. I would like to be able to see the radio and see what frequency it's on, or see if it's on and off without having to touch it and engage with the radio. So that is one of the biggest things I have to ding them on. And I kind of hope I'm not making a dummy out of myself, but I couldn't find a way to do the power saving feature and still keep some type of display on the screen. I know that I could probably turn the brightness down, but the all or nothing is kind of strange to me. I would like to go ahead and talk about one thing I did like about the radio again. Back to this because I forgot. There are several buttons on this radio, like here, here, and here. They're all programmable. So although this radio has your generic 2 meter, 70 centimeter functions on it, it has a few other things like tone scanning and scanning frequencies and swapping bands and things like that you can program to all of these little buttons. You can even have a B push to talk and an A push to talk, which is probably one of the better features of the firmware in this radio. So if you have one frequency up here, you can talk with this button. If you have another frequency on your B band, you can go back and talk with this button. It also has dual watch, so it can also go down and check those frequencies and see if somebody's talking on them, which is nice to have on a radio at this price. So that's one good thing I forgot. One thing, and I've been kind of waiting on the video to do this because I want to see if it works. This belt clip seems extremely loose. Extremely loose. And sometimes I play with it, and I might push my thumb. I'm like, could I break that with my thumb? It's like, if I do, I won't catch it on video. I don't know if I can or not. I'm going to attempt to just push my thumb across this, and if I just break this off with my thumb, that's going to be a bad thing for me. I know I did it intentionally, but if you're using this radio out in the wild, and this is the only thing securing your radio to your body, I want it to be a little bit more rigid. And I compared it with the give of the Quansheng, which definitely does not give that much in one of my Yaesu radios, and it does not. So I just broke it off very easily. I didn't even push as hard as I thought I would have to, and yeah, it's just snapped off. I barely pushed it with my thumb. I almost just basically slid my thumb across the back. So definitely a big ding there. So I would never use this radio's belt clip in any way, capacity. If you care about keeping your radio, it could slide off. If you don't care, since it's a cheap radio, if it falls, go ahead and use it, but a little too loose for me for the fact of the video, because I can't remember if I talked about it or not. But going back to the USB-C cable, I could have been just doing something wrong, but this USB-C cable, although it supports power, it charges the device fine, it does not support data. You might be wondering, why does that matter? There's not data on the battery. Well, you are right, there's no data on the battery. But USB-C is now the standard, and so I like to have USB-C cables kind of around the house whenever I need to use one. And I might pick this up sometime and try to use this for a USB device on a computer, which is kind of what I did. And it didn't work, and I sat and troubleshooted for about 20 minutes trying to find out why this specific USB device wasn't working. And it came down to the cable not having a data connection. And maybe I'm doing something wrong, maybe I have a defective cable, but the cable that I got here, I could not get it to work over data. It would only charge the battery. So some of you guys might find that silly. To me, I'm going to throw this cable away, because that way I never pick it up and start troubleshooting something. Those are kind of the bad things about this radio. And honestly, that's really all I can think about. At $44 though, the Quansheng, I cannot push that. I'm trying right now, I can't snap that off. So that's kind of an oversight there. You want your belt clip to be strong. So given, everything that I've said here today, it comes down to like if you should buy this radio or not. I would say if you like the style of this radio, that's what kind of sets it apart. If you like the fact that it has the dual watch, if you like the fact that it has push to talk on A and B, and that it has USB-C charging on the bottom, those are going to be the biggest selling points of this radio. If those matter enough to you to kind of look over some of the oversights, what comes with cheaper filtering or cheaper construction, if you can look over those things, the additions of USB-C alone, and the A and B programmable buttons, I think, are big enough to kind of and kind of the water resistance too, are big enough to kind of justify the price some. With that said, this is competing in the same market as a $25 Quansheng UVK5, which basically has all of the functions of this radio with the hackable firmware. So it's really hard to say buy this radio over this radio. That's just the way it is. I want to give a shout out to my YouTube members. Scott Pasternak, thank you so much for being a member for so long. We also have Hamil Vanderwalt, Google Must Die, Van Flick, and Bart Killam again. Thank you guys for being channel members. I appreciate you. And I want to go ahead and say thank you all for watching the video. I hope that I offered some insight to this radio. I want to make sure that I'm using the products that I'm talking about in the videos. I don't want to be like some people and just do a unboxing and a review for a free product, a review, just to try to make a buck off of it, or just because I have some type of sponsorship. So I want to make sure that I am giving you guys an accurate representation. So if you felt like in any way that I was being disingenuous about this radio, please let me know how so in the comments. I'd like to really think about it. Anyways, thanks for watching, and 73 to you. Have a good one.